It's difficult to believe that this generation of Ford Ranger is already 7 years old. Yes folks, this one came out way back in 2012. And over the years, a bunch of improvements have come along. There's new under-chassis bits and, revealed late last year, an all-new engine. Now, we were fans of the old 3.2-liter 5-cylinders, so does this new 2-liter bi-turbo be even better? But before we get to the heart of the matter, well, how can you tell a 2019 model from a 2018 one? Well, to start off, you have this new grille. The old one had a single bar grille, this new one has a 2-bar grille. Somewhat similar to the US line. But perhaps most noticeable is the placement of the fog lights now. They're actually a bit further away and now shrouded in this, well, thicker piece of cladding actually. Now the old one had it shrouded within like a gray trim surrounded it, and personally I think I prefer that look, but maybe that's just me. Well, you could chime in the comments which look you prefer, 2018 or 2019. Now these are mainly the major changes to the front. Well, they're still relatively minor. There are a few detail changes, like on the fender it no longer says the engine displacement, it now says bi-turbo on it, and at the back you have slightly revised taillights. Of course, this is a pickup, so one of the main talking points here is the bed. Now let's go check that out. Now that we're at the back of the Ranger, let's talk about that bed a little bit more. So we believe that the Ranger has the largest cargo area in its class in terms of volume. See, it has the widest bed and it's also the tallest. But it's slightly pipped by the Toyota Hilux by a few millimeters in terms of length. But really, in terms of overall volume, we believe this one has the biggest. And then there's the matter of payload. Now Ford from the start has been boasting about payload capacity in the Rangers for all these years. And this one is no exception. They're claiming that it can carry up to 1.3 tons of payload, which is seriously impressive. And it's also worth noting the 4x2 models because all of them can carry more than a ton on top of their chassis. Also, another unique feature on the Wildtrak models, be it 4x4 or 4x2, there's actually a light underneath the sport bar, so you can keep tabs on your cargo when you're carrying anything back here at the tray. That's pretty good stuff. Now you'll either find the Ford chime amusing or annoying. Well, for me, I actually find it pretty amusing. It's different from the usual bell you hear in other cars. Now when it comes to the interior, I actually can't tell much change from the 2018 model to the 2019 model. Well, you get the same instrument cluster, which has 2 digital readouts. On the left, it has your vehicle information, and you can even change your vehicle settings with it, thanks to these buttons on the steering wheel. And on the right, it shows your entertainment options. You have your radio, your Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, your Bluetooth or whatever, and you can change your song tracks, also with a bunch of buttons on the left-hand side of the steering wheel. Well, all in all though, it's still the same familiar interior we've seen for the past, well, 4 years actually, because this is, well, pretty similar to the 2015 model update. Now of course this is the Wildtrak model, so it has a slightly chunkier steering wheel and orange stitching here, on the dash, on the seats and all that. And there are smatterings of Wildtrak badges all over the place. And because this is the Wildtrak, there's a pretty neat feature at the back. Well, let's go check that one out. Now that feature I'm talking about is the 230 volt socket here at the back. Now, not only can you charge your mobile devices, but you can also even plug in your laptop and stuff like that. Well, that means you can actually work at the back of the Ranger. Pretty cool. Now for the back seat, we've said stuff about the Ranger before and actually pretty good. You get a decent amount of legroom. The seat height is just right. It doesn't force your knees to be perched way up high. Well, even the backrests are reclined just enough so you don't get backache. Of course, I wouldn't recommend anyone sitting here in the middle, and actually that applies to every pickup if you were over 5'5". really only not so tall people will be okay sitting here. Other features, well, you can actually lift this whole seat up and there's under tree storage here to keep your valuables out of sight. Also, thankfully, there is an armrest and a bunch of seat back pockets, so you can put, well, more items and tow them away out of prying eyes. I also like the fact that there are huge bottle holders in each door, so the people at the back don't have to get thirsty. So is this new Ranger, well, sort of new Ranger, a step above the ones you were familiar with from a couple of years ago? Well, I have to say that the ride quality is pretty much the same. I really can't tell any difference from the model last year or 2 years ago. But when it comes to steering, Ford is gradually adding more and more feel and feedback, because the first time the Ranger went to electronic power steering, it was comically light, so it always felt like you were turning in way too much all the time. This one, at least, I have a better idea where the front wheels are pointed. It's still over boosted, but this one is slightly better, even at lower speeds. As for ride, well, it's a typical pickup. It's not going to be super smooth, but for a pickup, the Ranger isn't that bad. There are actually competitors out there with harsher rides at the back. And when you're here in front of the Ranger, it pretty much feels like an Everest almost. You'll only feel it when you ride over a bump when you're seated at the back. The reason why I mentioned fuel economy is because it has a new 10-speed automatic transmission, and first I was really expecting huge gains in fuel economy, but again, it's only putting out 7.7 kilometers per liter. And again, when you're in standstill traffic, everyone's doing 0 kilometers per liter. So this is probably like a really bad average for now. And considering that the Raptor has the same engine, sometimes you have to wonder, well, why get a Raptor? Well, the Raptor is a totally different niche, so it's more of a play truck than a work truck. But if you want a work truck that has heaps of power, there's nowhere else to go. This is the truck to get with 212 horsepower. Now, I do also have to make another note about the transmission. Yes, it has 10 speeds to choose from, although sometimes it kind of feels confused. Like from time to time, if you want to overtake, you have to dig in your foot a little deeper in the accelerator to downshift twice. If you're going to step on it very lightly, it's going to go down one gear and sometimes very hesitantly shift down another gear. So you have to be decisive on how much pedal pressure you want to put on it so the transmission will know how to react. So you may be wondering what the handling is like. Well, it's a pickup truck, so don't expect it to be a canyon carver in any way, shape, or form. Although, for such a long barge, it actually turns pretty well. Again, the steering could use a little more feed and feedback just to know where your front wheels are pointed. Although that said, it's much more improved than before. But handling on road is, well, it's pretty civilized actually. It doesn't feel like it's gonna tip over at any speed or any notion that anything tall is just gonna roll over. Of course, this is still a tall vehicle, so do remember that and not to take turns too sharply. The Ranger comes with a whole suite of safety systems. It's got stuff like automatic emergency braking, it's got pre-collision warning and all of that, lane keep assist even. And basically stuff you'd find in a Mercedes S-Class from not too long ago actually. That's all impressive. However, there's a huge sensor up here there's a huge panel up here actually that stores all those sensors, and it kind of gets in the way of forward visibility sometimes. I mean, most of the time probably you won't mind it, but well, for me, I do notice it a lot because it's right in my line of sight. Maybe I just have to be taller. And if you like this video, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and also follow us on our social media accounts on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. This has been Anton Andres of AutoIndustriya.com, and thank you for watching.